It's time for the big three. We've got three stocks to go through, and then Rick will take us through three charts with Ducat, of course, here for the technicals, and then here to take us through the stock picks is Charles Moon, stock strategist at Prosper Trading Academy. Great to have you both with us this morning. Now, Charles, let's start with you. If you wouldn't mind, before we get to your picks for the day, just a big picture thought on the market performance we've seen of late.
I have maintained that we're going to keep on this bullish course. The Fed only confirmed what the market was thinking, is that we are projecting 3 rate cuts this year. They have fully priced that in. They're starting to actually price in the idea that January could start off with a rate cut as well. With the forward-thinking market, obviously a lot of these stocks have been explosive as of late, and we've just been on this really good trajectory. I don't see anything to really slow us down. You know, the possible government shutdown is looming. There's a possible conflict with China if the trade deal doesn't follow through. I just feel that there's not much to slow this market down. Monetary policy is starting to get dovish, and this is all the markets wanted. They wanted the Fed policy to soften a bit, and when we finally got confirmation, we have hit this little breakout to the upside. While it hasn't been explosive, it's been very consistent, and that just continues to remain within the sentiment since we bounced off lows, is that we've remained bullish.
All right, so then we're going to move right into your first pick here. Astera Labs, they recently got an upgrade from Citi on their price target, up about 71%. But as I just look at their chart, shares down about more than 5%, 5.5% today. Walk us through this pick.
Yeah, and we're seeing a little bit of like rebalancing here towards the end of the month. A lot of these stocks that have been strong performers are down quite a bit today, and this is one of them. So initially, I was looking at this 235 price level. They were defending it yesterday. It broke a little bit lower today. So I actually love the idea that it's pulled back a little bit more off of its recent highs, targeting around this 215, 220 price. I think that if we could find balance and hold at this level, this is offering great short-term value for the near term. This is a stock that's been beloved by both investors and short-term traders, and they've been very responsive off these faster moving averages. So this has been a point where we would be looking for a pivot. I love the rebound idea right back to around 240 to 250 in the near term. I believe that this is a stock that could achieve these levels in just a matter of days versus a matter of weeks, which is why a lot of retail traders love to trade this name due to the velocity and the volatility. So this is a key level, because if they start breaking down below this 215 price, there's a lot of downside to be had. Since this stock was just at 175 a month ago, we could see that possible breakdown to that range as well if we don't see that pivot here soon. So that's why I'm anticipating the buyers stepping in on a very, very bullish name as of late. We'll see if that 215 level holds.
All right, so Rick, with all of that said, can you walk us through the chart here for Astera Labs?
Yeah, so, when we do have these big pushes to the upside here, and here's that kind of 170 area Charles was saying, that was where we opened up after our earnings gap to the upside here. So that was a low end that many traders might have had their eye on here. But, this was our high point here and our breakout point around 193, 194. That could be another level to consider if things really start to break down here. But for now, though, 217, that was our old best close. We came quite near to that level during our recent pullback here, but we haven't quite made it to that level. Notice as well that you could say that for the most part our trend is still intact here. You could draw a this white dash trend line here. We did have a bit of an excursion beyond that level here, but for the most part you could say the trend is still up. In the shorter term, though, we do have another downward sloping trend line here. So the question is now, are we retreating back to a supportive area before the uptrend continues here, or is this maybe the start of more of a difficult situation for the bulls here? But we'll have to see here. So for now, 217 lines up with our yellow 21-day exponential moving average here, so even extra emphasis on that level. RSI experiencing a bit of a reset. Our momentum indicator is out of the overbought area. Its trend line is broken. We are heading back toward the 50 midline here, so that could be another thing something to consider if we cross back over that area here. Volume profile, standard deviation channels here. Well, you can see that we have a bit of a node here lining up with our 9-day exponential moving average and our +2 channel. Those come in right around 238 or so. That could be an upside boundary. And to the downside here, once again, we have 217 or so, and that 194 level, that lines up with our +1 channel here. So some notable supportive areas really stick out there.
All right, Rick, thank you so much. I want to move on, Charles, to your next pick. Your next one is Hut 8. Now, they recently hit a new all-time high after getting an upgrade and a price target hike from Roth Capital. But walk us through here, and are you bullish or bearish on Hut 8?
Extremely bullish. They've kind of topped off a little bit here today near their 52-week high, but there's a lot of projection and possibility with this name. This is a standout along with IREN and even Cipher, CIFR. A lot of the crypto stocks, especially the ones that the retail traders and the public generally look to, names like MSTR and Coinbase, have struggled a bit. They're really underperforming a lot of the major players out there. But, names like HUT and IREN and CIFR have been extremely bullish. They've been in this breakout trend. Now, they're not as explosive as names like OCLO and IONQ, the recent pumpers that we have seen exploding to the upside over the last week. However, this has been tried and true and very consistent. And for me, when I see progressive stocks or stocks making progressive moves, not in an explosive manner, but in an orderly manner, well, trend is your friend. And that dynamic is really important. So, for me, I'm looking really closely here for a break of this 39.47 level. I think the initial slowdown is going to be about 42, but I do believe that 45 is kind of that tipping point, because I think if we get this stock above 45, and then Bitcoin also coincides with a breakout at their all-time highs, this is where the stock could now start getting into that explosive nature. They have tremendous upside potential. They could easily double up from that 45 price in a short period of time. Well, maybe not in a day, maybe not in a few weeks, but ultimately in the same period of time that this stock has moved from $22 to $39. So ultimately, I'm looking right now right around this $34 price. The next layer I would be looking at is right around $30. I believe these are going to be great pivot points for short-term traders to scoop up to look for that 42 and 45 upside near term.
All right, so right now trading at 36.56 right now. But Rick, as we look at the technicals, what are they showing us on the chart here?
Well, we had a pretty clear point that the bulls would probably want to have broken that 30.24. That was our high close from all the way back there. Now we have pushed above that level, a bit of a symmetrical triangle shape taking place here, sometimes called a coil, sometimes called a cobra. It kind of looks like a snake in this particular one here. And the head would be this area, the snake like kind of rearing its head up like that. Kind of a more fun name to think about here. But regardless, though, what you would be thinking about in terms of the pullback here, we're seeing this period of sideways to downward consolidation after a strong push to the upside, often called a bull flag, bull pennant type pattern here. So what you'd be looking for would be for price to push back above those initial highs after this brief consolidation period here. So RSI still hanging on in the overbought area here, above that threshold of 70. So momentum still quite bullish, even though it's starting to trend somewhat downward here as price drifts sideways. But our 9-day exponential moving average lines up pretty closely with that trend line boundary here. If we were to look at our other studies here, we can see that there's a little bit of volume here, but the significant volume area is starting when we get back down to the 28 level or so. So if we do get some kind of pullback here, the +2 channel could be a foothold potentially for the bulls. 34.17 is where that line comes in now, and then those old highs near 30.24. A quick look too at our longer term chart here shows that we've had quite a fall from grace here, but notice we're taking out those old highs here. We are significantly above the old range that we established here. So the 40 level looks like it could be an interesting test for this stock.
It's so interesting when we look at this longer term chart. I love when you pull these up because it looks like we're so drastically below this, but if you look at the chart progression over the last 5 years, still up more than 1,000% for Hut 8. So, I mean, huge growth, even though this peak looks disarmingly like something has gone wrong here. But when you zoom in, you see we've been on a pretty upward trajectory here. But Charles, with all of that looked at, let's move on to your next one we've been talking about quite a bit this week with the launch of the iPhone 17 Apple. What's your perspective on Apple, and do you buy into this heavy demand, and are we coming into a super cycle here for the iPhone?
Yeah, and that's really interesting, is because I think the demand for the phone has actually caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of people were nervous that they're just kind of recycling the same thing over and over. People have said that Apple has gotten boring. That's really why Apple has struggled a bit this year in terms of gaining a little bit of traction to the upside. Well, just recently they've gotten above that 200-day moving average, and all of a sudden the stock is becoming a totally different performer. They're getting back to what Apple was, which was the leader of the market. So I really do believe that they're going to be testing this all-time high at 259. And I actually believe that they're going to break out. I believe that breakout is going to lead to a rally to 275. But again, if more and more data comes in, and if that iPhone 17 demand does lead to record numbers, then we're actually going to be knocking on the door of 300 by the end of the year. Dan Ives, a highly respected individual on Wall Street, especially in relation to tech, actually has the highest price target projection out there. And if he is that bullish, I believe that the market is listening here. We saw a really explosive move yesterday, a little bit of a resting period today at the recent highs, but I believe that we're not going to roll over here, that we're just going to consolidate a bit. We're going to test these highs. The initial test may not break, but I do believe that it's going to come, that Apple will pick itself up, it will break, and it will make that move towards 275. This is probably the one stock that I'm most bullish on out of the Mag 7 so far.
All right. Well, we're about $20 off of that 275 that you're looking for. So, Rick, as far as what the technicals are telling us, is there room to move to the upside here?
Well, there's always room to move to the upside here, but we are stuck near our previous highs here, 259 or so, 260. That's around the level the bulls would want to beat here. But if we were to backtrack a little bit here, you can see this old high point here was tested twice before we had that big push to the upside. That's why we try to look for these repeated stopping points for price. We're not saying we're making a prediction that it's going to break above or it's going to fail. These are just the levels where you could see the potential for the breakout if it starts to push above this established boundary. Another level here that stood out, another high point there near 250. That could be a supportive area now if we do start to get a pullback. So if we were to think about our moving averages here, when price is moving quickly, moving averages aren't too terribly much help. Oftentimes the 9-period exponential moving average, that's one of the shortest ones that we follow. That comes in near 244. So that could be an area to watch, especially if it starts to line up with some of these other supportive areas during a pullback. RSI broke through its downward sloping trend line and re-entered the overbought area, typically regarded as a sign of strength in a trending market here. So look for continued strength in momentum if price makes a big push to the upside here. So if we were to think about volume profile shows all the concentration of trading really down here, 228, 229. That would be the standout level in terms of volume. But to the downside, though, our +2 channel comes in near 246. Our +3 channel comes in near 260, 250 or so. Those could be some boundaries to watch out for as well based on our standard deviation channel study.
All right, Rick, thank you. Right now trading right about 256, but Charles mentioned Dan Ives. His new price target is a street high of 310. So he envisions it moving about the same way as Charles does. But I want to thank you both. That brings our big three to a conclusion. Rick Ducat, Charles Moon, thanks for being with us today.